We're pleased to be joined by Dr. Nancy Blattner, president of Caldwell University. Good to see you, Doctor.
Nice to be here with you, Steve. Thank you.
We just had a really terrific conversation with Dr. Blattner, three other university presidents talking about the future of higher ed. By the way, what was your biggest takeaway from that conversation? But go on online. You'll see our website, steveadubato.org, if you want to see that program if you missed it on the air.
I think the biggest takeaway was that all of us, despite the fact that we represent a variety of different types of institutions, we all have very common goals. We all want to see the same thing for the citizens of New Jersey, and that we're all willing to collaborate. I think that's critically important because I think sometimes people have the impression that we're all very competitive and cutthroat. And I think, as Dr. Hushman said, you know, there are times when we have to be competitive. We do offer similar programs at times, but there is plenty of room for everyone at the table, and that's what I think the takeaway was, that we're willing to work together.
Dr. Blattner, one of the things we did not talk about in that forum that I want to talk about here is the relationship between two-year institutions of higher learning and four-year institutions of higher learning, particularly because Governor Murphy is talking extensively about the desire to make community, county college free in many cases. 2- and 4-year institutions in competition?
No, I think they can be great collaborative partners.
Break it down.
Sure. So one of the things that I think came out of the Affordability Commission that I served on, and it concluded in 2016.
College affordability.
Yes, a commission that was impaneled under our previous governor, was that we needed to work collaboratively between 2- and 4-year institutions to design what's called a reverse transfer articulation process. And the State Senate and Assembly signed a bill actually in July last year in 2017 that really asked that all institutions, 4-year institutions working in collaboration with the Secretary of Higher Education and the New Jersey President's Council would work toward entering into these agreements. So maybe I can just explain a little bit about what this is. So there are many students that will start their educational careers at a 2-year institution, and for whatever reason, could be change of location, it could be a whole host of things, they leave the 2-year institution, they go on to a 4-year institution, but they don't complete the associate degree. They don't have enough credits. And so ultimately what happens is that student is somewhat lost. And so these reverse articulation agreements would allow such a student to come from a 2-year institution to Caldwell or to anywhere else where there was an agreement in place, and to complete the hours that were lacking. 66 is what's stipulated in the legislation that was signed, so that the student then would transfer those credits from Caldwell back to the 2-year institution, let's say Middlesex or Union, and the student then would be awarded the associate degree from the county college or from the community college.
How does that help the student?
Well, it helps everybody. So it helps the student because, first of all, the student now has the beginning of the stackable credential. The student has
stackable credential.
Right. So the student has the first piece after high school, an associate's degree. And we talked in the previous segment about the fact that college graduates outperform in many different ways, both in life satisfaction, in earning. They have less unemployment. That's true also for people who have an associate degree.
The 2-year degree.
Yes, as compared to their high school counterparts. So for that person, even if he or she never goes on and finishes the 4-year degree from Caldwell or another 4-year institution, the student is still benefited because he or she has that first layer, the associate degree. It's great for the 2-year college because the 2-year college now can count that student as a graduate, because if the student leaves there and doesn't have the associate's degree, that student is just lost. And we're at a time when the public is so scrutinizing higher education. We also talked about that.
That's right.
What's
in
the value?
Forum, the college president's forum.
What's the value? Why should anyone go to college? Well, in part, if we can produce more graduates, if we can show that we have higher percentages of graduates, and many 2-year students go on to a 4-year institution without completing an associate degree, and they graduate from a 4-year institution, but they're not allowed to count for the 2-year graduation rate.
What do you mean they're not allowed to?
No. So a student, for example, who begins a career in one institution and transfers, whether it's between 4-year or between a 2- and a 4-year, doesn't count as a graduate for either institution, for any institution, because that's the way our national counting system works.
No, I didn't say why is I didn't say what is it. I said what's the logic behind it.
I couldn't explain that because it seems completely illogical to me.
Can the government explain it?
I don't think so. And I think that reverse transfer articulation is one way to address this, because it's good for the community college because now they have a graduate. the student has a credential. And it's great for the four-year institution because now we have a student who might choose to go to our institution
Right.
because there's an alignment between the two institutions.
And by the way, there's some savings involved here.
There are, and part of
Excuse me, is it because the community colleges are less expensive?
yes, and also because if this is done correctly, the two institutions will work to have a seamless transfer of curriculum. So that when we have these kinds of reverse articulation transfer agreements, what happens is that the student takes a set of courses at the two-year institution and then can very seamlessly move to our institution where there isn't duplication, there
Right.
isn't a gap. We don't suddenly find, well, instead of needing 120 credits to graduate, and that's something else that the Affordability Commission talked about, now the student needs 135 because there were some missed opportunities.
Right.
The curriculum is laid out seamlessly, and the student knows what to do from beginning to finish.
You know what? It's interesting. I thought I understood the 2- and 4-year institution of higher learning connection, but it was, what's it called again? The reverse?
Reverse transfer articulation agreement.
Dr. Nancy Blattner, President of Caldwell University, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Well done. Be right back right after this.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by St. Joseph's Health, Valley National Bank, PSC&G, New Jersey Sharing Network, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, Johnson & Johnson, and by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.